Why being true to yourself matters most. Have you ever tried to change yourself just to be accepted by others? Have you ever felt like your true self wasn't good enough, so you hid it away, hoping the world might finally admire you? Life has a quiet way of teaching us lessons. It whispers that strength does not come from pretending or from becoming someone else. True strength is born the moment we choose to honor who we really are. This story is about a boy named Tariq, and the lesson he learned from the most unexpected teacher. A small goat who never tried to be anything other than herself. Tariq lived in a peaceful village, surrounded by rolling hills, golden fields, and the gentle sound of a river moving calmly through nature's heart. The village was simple, the kind where children ran freely through the fields, neighbors shared everything they had, and life seemed slow but full of meaning. Tariq was unlike the other children. While they climbed trees, ran through the fields, and wrestled for fun, Tariq preferred something different. He loved shaping figures out of clay. He loved writing tiny poems on scraps of paper, words that only he and the wind understood. He would often sit beneath the big acacia tree outside his home, imagining stories blooming from the shapes he created. His loyal companion, a small goat named Safi, was always by his side. Safi was as white as winter clouds, with playful eyes that sparkled like dewdrops in the morning sun. She followed Tariq everywhere, nudging him gently whenever he got too lost in his thoughts. The villagers often joked that Safi was just a softer version of Tariq's own heart, gentle, curious, and free. But while the other children laughed at their friendship, Tariq felt no shame. Safi understood him. She didn't judge his quiet nature or strange hobbies. She listened silently as he read out his poems or showed her his newest clay creation. She loved him for who he truly was. Tariq's father, Hakim, however, was not always convinced that this path would shape a strong future. "Tariq," his father would say, "life is not a dream. You must learn to be strong. Strength is what keeps us alive." Each time Tariq would nod and promise to try, even though he wondered why strength had to look the same for everyone. Was there no strength in kindness? No courage in creativity? No power in honesty? One bright morning, the village chief made an announcement that thrilled the entire community. A grand festival would be held in 1 week. There would be games, races, strength contests, and performances of all kinds. The winner, the chief declared proudly, would earn a scholarship to the Royal Academy, an honor no one could ignore. The village erupted in excitement. Children cheered, imagining themselves as champions. Parents whispered hopeful dreams. Opportunities like that were rare, and everyone believed it could change a family's future forever. Tariq's heart fluttered with possibility. The Royal Academy was known for celebrating talent. Perhaps they might appreciate his creativity, his art, his imagination. But then fear tugged at his mind. What if everyone laughed at him? What if he tried and failed? In front of everyone, his father placed a hand firmly on his shoulder, his eyes full of expectation. "This could be your chance, my son. Make us proud." The pressure settled like a stone inside Tariq's chest. That night, beneath the quiet glow of the moon, Tariq sat shaping a small clay figure as Safi lay beside him. The cool air carried the scent of blooming flowers. He looked at Safi and whispered, "Do you think I should enter? Do you think I can do something great?" Safi bleated softly and nudged his hand. In her own silent way, she seemed to say, "You are already great." But doubt can be louder than love sometimes. The next morning, the children gathered to practice for the festival. Tariq watched them race, their feet pounding the earth like drums of thunder. He watched them lift heavy bags of grain, their muscles straining proudly. They were strong. They were fast. They belonged. Desperate to fit in, Tariq decided to join the race. When the whistle blew, the children dashed like arrows shot from a bow. Tariq stumbled after them, his legs burning, his breath catching, his heart breaking as he fell behind again and again until he finally crossed the finish line long after everyone had stopped cheering. Laughter chased him like a harsh shadow. One boy snickered, "Maybe Safi should run instead of you." Another chimed in, "Yeah, a goat would do better." Tariq forced a small smile, but the humiliation burned deeper than any wound. He next attempted the strength challenge, but the sack of grain barely lifted off the ground before slipping from his weak grip. More laughter, more whispers, more sad glances even from his own father, who seemed too disappointed to speak. Tariq walked home slower than ever before. That night, he didn't touch his clay. His poems remained unwritten. When Safi approached him, hopeful for affection, he turned away. "Maybe father is right," he confessed bitterly. "Maybe being myself isn't enough. Maybe I must change." And so he did, or at least he tried. The next day, and the next, and the next. Tariq trained. He ran until his lungs felt like fire. He lifted rocks until his hands blistered and bled. He pushed Safi away when she tried to follow him, leaving her confused and lonely. He stopped carving. He stopped imagining. He stopped smiling. The children began to accept the new Tariq. They nodded at him, included him, even praised him a little. "Finally, he's normal," they said. But in becoming someone they liked, Tariq began to lose the boy that he himself loved. With each passing day, something inside him went silent. The spark in his eyes dimmed. The joy in his voice vanished. His heart felt less like his own. 3 days before the festival, dark clouds gathered without warning. Winds howled through the village, and the river roared to life, no longer calm but wild and angry. Heavy rain poured from the sky, crashing onto rooftops, flooding fields, sweeping away everything in its path. Villagers rushed to save what they could. Panic filled the air. Water surged toward the farms, threatening their crops and tools, the very things needed to survive the coming season. Tariq watched the chaos with fear swirling in his stomach. Then suddenly, he froze. "Safi!" The small goat had wandered too close to the raging river, drawn by floating bits of leaves. Her hooves slipped on the wet ground. She let out a terrified bleat as she fell into the churning water. A scream rose from the villagers. "The goat! It will drown!" But before the words fully reached his ears, Tariq was already running. He plunged into the river without hesitation, without thought, without fear of failure or laughter. All he knew was that Safi needed him. The current was brutal. It shoved him, spun him, tried to pull him under. He gasped and kicked, his muscles screaming for relief. Villagers shouted for him to return, but Tariq's eyes stayed locked on the familiar white shape struggling in the water. Every ounce of training he had done now served a purpose he had never expected, not for competition, not for approval, but for love. He reached out, stretching with every bit of strength inside him, until his fingers tangled in Safi's wet fur. Safi cried out, clinging to him desperately. With the goat in one arm, Tariq fought sideways against the current, pulling them both toward safety. It felt like hours before his feet finally touched the muddy bank. He collapsed, coughing, exhausted, but relieved beyond words. Safi lay trembling beside him, alive. Hakim rushed forward and dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes as he hugged his son tightly. "My boy, I thought I had lost you." But Tariq didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on Safi. Guilt and love swirled inside him like a storm. "I'm so sorry," he whispered shakily. "I forgot who I was. I forgot who we are." Safi pressed her head to his chest, as if forgiving everything without a single word. In that moment, Tariq understood something powerful. True strength wasn't about being better than others. True courage wasn't in impressing a crowd. It was in showing up for what mattered. It was in acting from love, not from fear. The storm eventually passed. The festival returned, bringing music and excitement back to the village. But Tariq no longer cared about fitting in. He no longer wished to prove anything. He only wished to be himself again. The night before the festival, he sat beneath the moon just like before, with clay in his hands and Safi curled up beside him. This time he sculpted a tiny goat, capturing her brave little eyes with great care. His father quietly approached and sat down next to him. Hakim watched his son work for a moment, emotion softening his tough features. "I wanted you to be strong," he began gently, "because I feared life would hurt you. But I forgot that strength does not come only from muscle. The greatest strength is in the heart, the kind that saved your friend." Tariq looked up, surprised by the softness in his father's voice. "I thought you wanted me to be like everyone else." Hakim shook his head slowly. "I only wanted you to survive. But now I see. You already have a strength many do not understand." He smiled sadly. "I am proud of you. Not for changing, but for returning to who you are." Tariq felt warmth bloom inside him once again, like the first rays of sunlight after a long night. When festival day arrived, the entire village gathered in the square. Judges stood at the ready. Children prepared nervously for their events. Tariq stood among them, but not to race, not to lift sacks. He walked to the center holding a tray filled with his clay figures, Safi trotting proudly beside him. The villagers stared in confusion. The chief frowned slightly. "What do you bring here, Tariq?" The boy took a deep breath. Fear fluttered inside him, but courage stood taller. "I bring myself," he replied. He held up the clay goat. "I tried to be like everyone else, but I lost my joy, my heart, and almost my best friend. These clay figures are my talent. They are who I am. And today, I choose to share that truth." Silence fell. The kind of silence where hearts listen more than ears. Tariq began telling short stories, each figure representing patience, kindness, resilience, the beauty of differences, and the quiet bravery of being yourself. He spoke with honesty, emotion, and a light that seemed to glow from the inside out. People smiled. Children leaned closer with wonder. Even adults found tears forming in their eyes. They saw not a weak boy, but a storyteller, someone whose heart carried wisdom beyond his years. When Tariq finished, the chief approached him slowly. Then, in a voice warm with admiration, he said, "True talent is not measured by strength or speed. It is measured by authenticity. And today, you have shown the greatest strength of all, the courage to be true to yourself." He lifted Tariq's arm high for all to see. In that moment, Tariq won. He did not just win the scholarship. He won respect, love, and most importantly, himself. The crowd erupted with applause. Safi bleated with excitement and circled around him. Hakim placed his hand on his son's shoulder with pride shining brighter than any medal. Tariq realized then that his uniqueness was not a weakness. It was his gift, his voice, his strength. Life will always push us, test us, challenge us, and sometimes break us apart so that we can rebuild as a stronger version of who we truly are. And when the world tells you to change just to belong, remember Tariq. Remember Safi. Remember that pretending may win you attention, but being real will win you peace. True strength comes from the heart. True beauty comes from authenticity. True success begins the moment we choose to stop living for others and start living as ourselves. So ask yourself now, what part of you have you hidden away because others didn't understand it? What dreams have you pushed aside because someone said you shouldn't chase them? What pieces of your heart deserve to shine? Hold on to them, nourish them, believe in them. The world needs who you are, not another copy of someone else. Your uniqueness is your power. Your truth is your light. Just like Tariq discovered, being true to yourself matters most. Thank you for listening to this story from Finance Compass. If Tariq's journey has touched your heart, if Safi's loyalty made you smile, or if you found even a small piece of yourself within this tale, please take a moment to reflect and share your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let this reminder stay with you always. Good or bad, only time can tell. Patience reveals truth. Faith guides footsteps. Life's uncertainties shape our strength. And who we are, deep inside, is always enough. Stay true, stay brave, and let your real light shine.